What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Patrick Sheehan. I'm here with my co-host, Dave Martinson. Dave, guess what I bought?
I don't know, sir.
I bought that year-long subscription to Movie Pass.
Hell yeah.
Shit.
They get the same email. I'm going to sign up as well.
Yeah, last night. So I had bought my Movie Pass subscription on Friday. Then you sent me that article by Variety talking about how they have a year-long one for $90, which is, first of all, ridiculous. Like, doing the math out, the theater I go to, I don't know if this is everybody's theater at this point, $15 for a nighttime showing, not a matinee.
You're in the tri-state, so it's a lot.
Yeah. So for me, that's 6 movies. I figure I'll get my money's worth by like February.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of crazy.
It's insane.
I've
seen just to end the Movie Pass thought, I've seen 7 movies this month of November in the theater. It's pretty ridiculous.
That is pretty ridiculous. Yeah, basically every time I go on Twitter, you're reviewing another movie. So
yeah. Hey, hit me with those takes at Martin Swagger.
Slave to the culture. So we're gonna jump into a couple of topics today. Our main ones, Mr. Robot and Justice League, which will be at the end. Well, we start off with your boy Stan not dropping his album.
My guy, that's for sure.
So, what do you make of this? Why didn't he drop the album as expected?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had a lot of viral marketing with the Revival, is what we think the album is called. I mean, I don't think they haven't really spoke about that. You know, anyone at Aftermath or Shady or Eminem himself. And yeah, we only had the one Walk on Water song, which was just last week, and it's a very serious song, whether you like it or not. So it's not the best single, and that's all we got. So it kind of makes sense if you think about traditional album rollout that it wasn't going to come out Friday. But I don't know, the lack of communication is a little strange. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you listened last week at soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, you would have heard that I couldn't care less. Actually, no, I couldn't care less, right?
Yeah, and if you guys want to check that out, please go. Dave works very hard to clip out our conversation so you can access what you want to access. And while you're there, give us a subscription. We should be right around here somewhere. Also find all of our content at soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod. Stay plugged in. Yeah, it's funny. He went on SNL, right? And he's a musical guest on with Chance the Rapper, which, I mean, if you have Chance the Rapper, just have Chance be the musical guest.
Yeah. Well, he's been doing late night a lot lately, so.
Yeah, he's on that circuit.
Yeah, it's not like he's promoting anything, you know?
Yeah. He actually talked about that in the opening, how he's just there for Thanksgiving. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of nice.
He's a famous person now.
Yeah, but so Eminem goes on. He does Walk on Water? That's the song?
Correct. Yeah.
And he's got Skylar Grey, who was fucking phenomenal, dude. She killed it. She sang the Beyonce part, she sang the Dido part, and she sang the Rihanna part in the 3 songs. So it goes from Walk on Water to Stan to Love the Way You Lie. And the first song is about how hard it is that people consider him to be washed up now, and then he does a song that's 17 years old and 7 years old. I mean, talk about irony. Dude just doesn't get it at this point. It's too bad. Because he, honestly, Stan. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't think he's dropped in 444. I'll tell you that. An old woke album. So, yeah, it's disappointing, but I don't care.
And Stan goes so hard. It was like kind of sad to go from Walk on Water to Stan, because I was like, God damn it. What happened? But anyways, why don't we jump into some things I think we are excited for? At least I'm interested to hear your take. So, American Crime Story, People vs. OJ, Season 1. I mean, got a lot of accolades, very well-respected show.
Many Emmys.
And Season 2, I thought it was supposed to be based on Katrina. Seems like that's been pushed out a bit.
Right. I mean, that was the initial Season 2 with Sarah Paulson leading. And that's now going to be Season 3. Because they pushed that back, in this new one, the assassination of Gianni Versace, is set to premiere January. Was it January 17th, right around the corner?
And the first trailer for it dropped very recently.
Yep.
And it looks like, I mean, just kind of looking over this cast, not as star-studded as Season 1, which, I mean, for those who didn't watch or have been living under a rock for the past year, Season 1 had Sterling K. Brown, it had Cuba Gooding Jr., John Travolta, I'm not even touching on like half of them at this point.
Sarah Paulson.
Sarah Paulson, right. This season, Penelope Cruz is probably the headliner, but overall, just a solid cast. And your boy, Ricky Martin, bringing that Livin' La Vida Loca to the small screen near you. What do you think? I mean, Darren Criss is playing Andrew Cunanan, actually, sorry, but mispronounced that. And Annalie Ashford is playing Elizabeth Cody, which seem to be like the two headliners. Penelope Cruz playing Donatella Versace. Are you excited based on this trailer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it looks cool. I mean, this is Ryan Murphy's just a machine. And while we're not fans of American Horror Story, American Crime Story had such a strong season 1 that you got to figure their budget went up a little bit for season 2. And I mean, yeah, no Sarah Paulson this time around, but I mean, I have to trust the brand at this point.
I mean, they only had one successful season.
Yeah, but Ryan Murphy has been such a successful creator of TV that if FX is gonna, have confidence in him with a cast that's not quite as star-studded this time around, I feel like you have to at least give him a chance.
The dude loves shots of people with their faces either covered or wrapped up. I'm surprised Tom Hardy hasn't worked with him yet, based on that. But that scene where he's got the duct tape wrapped around the guy's head is fucking terrifying, but also gets me so amped to see where the season goes.
Yeah, it does have a different vibe than the first season. The first season was more or less retelling, the tale of the tape, basically. But this one looks a little more neurotic because we have the assassin as a main character. So, yeah, definitely interesting. And, I mean, dropping third week of January, there's not a whole lot premiering that. It's just all the returning, network stuff. So Mr. Robot will be done by then. So it's probably a great window to perhaps dominate. This is when Young Pope came out last year.
Kind of Big
Little Lies, so it's a good window.
Yeah, definitely. I think American Horror Story, American Crime Story is gonna dominate the first quarter of the year. Another show that will be dropping a little bit sooner, Easy Season 2, an anthology series on Netflix, which we reviewed on SoundCloud.com/NowstalgiaPod back in October of last year. Does that sound right?
It's about a year ago. Yeah, last fall, late summer, I think.
And we were pretty high on the show. There were some episodes, there were some ups and downs. I think one very controversial episode. But I think the thing we liked most about the show was that it kind of jumped from character to character, rarely ever touched on the same characters twice. Very interesting perspectives. Season 2 seems to be kind of running it back in a way from the trailer, with a couple of people added in. What were your thoughts on the trailer?
Yes, and I think that's exactly spot on. You have a lot of people returning, like Dave Franco and Aya Cash from You're the Worst, among others, and then there's some new people in there as well. So I wasn't actually sure if Easy Season 2 would exist because there was really no announcement, one way or the other. There was no buzz or even reporting on the production, and then the Netflix fashion. Hey, by the way, it's gonna drop another 8 episodes, 10 episodes.
Right.
On 12/1, so 8 episodes. So really cool.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm glad that it's coming back. I was kind of hoping if it did come back from a season 2, it would follow totally new people. Just kind of keep jumping from person to person. I guess checking back in with these characters, especially when you have this kind of talent. I mean, like Zazie Beetz is one of the people. Which if you can get her,
Kiersey Clemens is back,
and they added Aubrey Plaza.
Yep, Mark Maron's back, obviously really high right now after Glow. Emily Ratajkowski not back. I actually really enjoyed her, despite her not being an actress. I thought she was good in her episode. So, but now you got Aubrey Plaza, like you said, Joe Truglio. So yeah, a lot of talent in this. And then Joe Swanberg, not really a household name, but I mean he's been known to make a lot of movies with Jake Johnson, Win It All on Netflix this summer, and really kind of pioneered the mumblecore genre alongside Greta Gerwig, who just did Lady Bird. So Joe Swanberg is an interesting guy in Hollywood, and it's nice to see Netflix just give him a chance to run it back because they clearly have a great relationship.
Definitely. So we'll definitely be checking in and giving our thoughts on Easy Season 2 once it drops. We'll probably be doing it in chunks as we did with Stranger Things, especially with a series like that. There's no need to watch it all at once. No one's going to be talking about it as heavily as Stranger Things.
But you should. Listening at home, because it's good shit. And yeah, it was last September it was when it came out last year. So a little over a year. It's a nice turnaround.
Definitely. Something that we haven't been talking about, but we've been saying we're going to talk about for like the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
Mr. Robot.
Dude.
I mean, a show that we really, really like, I would say. It's probably our second favorite show on TV to Game of Thrones.
That's
you
correct. Yes. Yes. With Fargo slipping a little bit, it's no doubt.
So season 3 has been an interesting season. Season 2 left off on a really interesting cliffhanger. Spoiler for those who have not caught up. Basically, Tyrell Wellick ends up shooting Mr. Robot / Elliot at the end of last season. This season has been, I feel like, even like delving even further into Elliot's psyche, which I think is the parts of the show that we like the most. But there's been I feel like there's been a lot of fat on the bone in a way. What have your initial thoughts on the season been?
Yeah, so I like the Mr. Robot Elliot relationship, his split personality, which was of course the big reveal of season 1. It's being manifested and shown in a different way this season, where in season 2, to a fault, season 2 was too surreal in Elliot's head so much with the fake out with him being in jail the whole time and whatnot. So the new direction we have now, it's a little more plot, but as Sam Esmail says, it's never really that much about the plot. But the conflict between Elliot and Mr. Robot manifests itself in a new way because they're almost fighting each other, and when Elliot's like regaining consciousness and oh wait, I just lost 20 minutes. What did Mr. Robot do? Or I woke up and he was taking over all night. I think it's just the way that they're Esmail has got that conflict into the story. I think it's working a little better than it did last season. So, but what do you mean by the fat? Where do you think the fat is this season?
Well, it's like what's the episode where Tyrell is basically like all about Tyrell? Was that episode 2?
I think that was episode 4.
Episode 4. Metadata, is that right? No.
Let's see. But yeah, I mean, that was a complete bottled episode, a flashback episode of sorts with how Tyrell escaped the Dark Army, like hid him, which is something we totally didn't need, even if it was, well done in its own right. It was so superfluous. So,
yeah, it just seemed kind of like maybe they had like 8.5 episodes like written out for the season. They're like, we could elongate Tyrell's episode, maybe even give him. I think also because he had been such a mysterious character to that point, maybe they felt like fans needed to see that. But I think they could have fit that into 20 to 30 minutes of an episode.
Yeah, I mean, that was episode 3, by the way. But I mean, yeah, my takeaway: we're 6 episodes in of a 10-episode season, and leaving, especially where we're at now with season 6, with Tyrell getting arrested. I mean, even before that happened, I think Tyrell has become more ancillary. I think the character has more or less run its course for the show. Yeah. I mean, if you listen back to past pods, we started this before season 2 premiered. So our excitement, about Tyrell was really crazy, and we almost built it up too much in our own heads. But I think if you watch the season, I think the arcs, Tyrell's arc is coming to a close. I'd say I don't think he's necessarily going to get axed right away, but I mean, especially when you see Joanna's death being killed early in the season. I mean, that really when she got shot and like totally got, I actually like stood up out of the chair I was watching. I like totally didn't see it coming, despite the fact that she was being attacked. Right. And then when Roxette's "Listen to Your Heart" the song comes in, I was like, man, I thought that scene was scored perfectly. I've actually rewatched it since I watched the episode. So
yeah, I was actually
seemed to be on their way out.
I was watching and I got a text like right before that scene, so I was kind of like looking at it while I was going, and then I like heard the gunshots. I looked up and I had to rewind because I was watching on DVR, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like it was really one of those moments that I think, even though maybe if you like look back, you could have seen something like that coming, you just don't expect it. And then it was really scored perfectly. I think the episode everybody's talking about has been episode 5, Runtime Error, which was basically like a single tracking shot, or maybe not a tracking shot, but basically just following him around in a way.
Right. The illusion of a single shot. Right. That episode was a masterclass in tension. It was superb.
Mhm. And I think actually I like the episode after it more. So
6,
Kill Process, episode 6, which aired last week. Um, that and Runtime Error were basically the same story, but turned into two episodes. The parts that I really like about Mr. Robot is the chances it takes, and nothing on TV looks like it. It
No.
doesn't. Nothing on TV has a story like this,
Mhm.
and I think especially in Kill Process, like the moments that are almost like darkly funny are what make Mr. Robot so endearing and a pleasure to watch. Because while Runtime Error was just so cool and like the tension of it, like Angela basically trying to get through this, like I don't know, break into Evil Corp and like survive and not get hurt or found out,
Yes. Yeah.
was so tension filled. But then like seeing Elliot walk down that hallway in episode 6, and when Mr. Robot starts taking over in those like glitches and he just hits like a wall or like falls over, it's just like it's funny, but at the same time you're like, oh man, like this is all like so beautifully done, and it's like comical but dramatic. And then the face off between Robot and Elliot, I was just like, whew, like I didn't breathe throughout that whole like 3 minutes. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it's a season about character dynamics and how they've changed since the start of the show. And we already talked about Elliot versus Mr. Robot. That's obviously the central character dynamic, but Angela manipulating Elliot's personality disorder to commit terrorism for her cause of justice. I mean, she's changed so much. And even Darlene, for a time, manipulating and lying to Elliot
Right.
on behalf of the FBI. And then, I mean, last episode 6, concludes with stage 2 coming to a conclusion. 71 E-Corp buildings go up, thousands of people killed, and the tunnel vision of the characters, both Elliot and Dom, effectively both on the same side, but they were so laser focused. Elliot on the one New York City building, and Dom on her white whale of Tyrell. I mean, just watching all of this unfold while we have no fucking clue what White Rose really wants the whole time as the evil mastermind, puppet master at Trump's Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
It's wonderful.
I'm wondering because basically the first like half of the season has been about Elliot trying to find a way to stop that attack, and then just finding out that even though he was able to stop the attack at that one location, White Rose just decides to blow everything else up, and like basically half of the season was kind of wasted in terms of like what were they trying to do with the plot. Did you feel at all frustrated by that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I wonder what the true purpose of it is. I mean, it seems like it's a pissing contest between White Rose and Price, but we still don't really know what White Rose and thus the Dark Army want. I mean, they annexed the Congo in this. It takes place in 2015. Obama's still president, but they're making Trump digs.
Right.
So it's never been a show that's been focused on the plot, as Miles said. And season 2 was so plot light that I think we're getting so much action and conflict in season 3 that I don't have a complaint.
Yeah, I think the reason that I don't feel frustrated by it is one, this is more like you said, like you keep reiterating, it's more a story about this person who is trying to deal with his mental health and the people around him and how it impacts them and how they impact him. But also, I think this is really like White Rose flexing. Like White Rose has been this like kind of like myth, and we were finding out more and more about BD Wong's White Rose. But I really think this kind of shows like, all right, this person can try to stop us, but we're just gonna kill thousands of more people and basically have the second biggest terrorist attack on American soil. Nothing can really stop me. I can create destruction if I want to. So it just kind of proves that there's like a bigger bad out there that they're facing than just what Elliot and they all seem to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the tunnel vision has come, has resulted in terror. So what happens next is still 4 more episodes, and I mean, White Rose is a series regular this season, so we'll get more of her. So,
shout out Bobby Cannavale, by the way, is Irving.
Yeah, I was gonna say Irving's been great. He's killing it.
Bobby Cannavale has never been more charming than on this, especially not on that. I can't even think of it. What was that rock and roll show on HBO?
Vinyl.
Yeah. Oh god, I knew it was like a stupid one-word title. Oh god.
He was good on Master of None season 2 as a Harvey Weinstein-esque fella.
Yeah, more like by the way, right before we logged on, I saw um Charlie Rose is the most recent celebrity to be accused of sexual harassment. So it's just the names keep piling up, dude.
Keep coming out.
It's horrible.
Let it happen. Drain the swamp, as they say.
Anyways, another maybe something we were pessimistic or not expecting great things from, unlike Mr. Robot, was Justice League, which we both saw over the weekend. I went Friday afternoon, had a very interesting crowd with me. Near the end of the movie, someone actually stood up and clapped after they beat the bad guy, which Steppenwolf, which we'll get into. And then after the credits ran and the final scene was cast, someone just shouted out, "Get better writers next time." So it was divisive, to say the least, the movie crowd I was at. There's, I think, a lot to unpack here. So where do you want to start with this Justice League discussion?
Yeah, so you're right. There's a lot to to deconstruct. So let's just start with the macro real world stuff. So Justice League is the fifth film in the DCEU. Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Suicide Squad. This year's Wonder Woman, the one film that was universally loved and acclaimed, and now we have Justice League. And I think you look at the box office numbers this year, 96 million, the first time in history that 96 million domestic is considered a disappointment, which is hilarious, but that's the fact. And that's versus a production budget that's around 300 million, because as you might have heard if you were on Twitter this summer, Justice League underwent extensive reshoots this summer when Zack Snyder, who was the architect of BVS and kind of this whole modern DCU in general as the main director, he had to step away from Justice League due to a personal family tragedy. And Joss Whedon came in. Joss Whedon, of course, Firefly fame, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and of course Avengers 1 and 2. And Joss Whedon is much more dialogue-y, quippy, funny, if you will. And you can kind of see that when you watch this movie, because about a third of the movie was reshot, and there are these scenes that are just lighter and more snappy and that are just so tonally different than the Zack Snyder self-serious stuff. And while the movie is very jarring in that regard, and in a sense, some people, DC fans, kind of feel like WB threw Snyder under the bus, I kind of am not mad, because if this movie was 100% serious and this was a Snyder movie, it would admit that. And I'm saying that as someone who loves 300 and really likes Watchmen. I'm not an anti-Snyder guy. I just don't. I just think his vision for this universe is just not working. So it's almost like, thank God that Whedon stepped in and made it as light as he possibly could. But the fact remains that no matter who made it, whether it was Snyder or Whedon, 100%. It's a pretty middling script, and it almost feels like it's a movie from like 6 years ago with a villain that's so one-dimensional and so CGI. So if you look at it in that regard, it's kind of a movie out of place, because one last thing, I mean, the DCEU was Batman vs Superman was basically a reaction to Man of Steel. Superman, when he's fighting Zod at the end, when he's fighting the immaculate Michael Shannon, he's doing it in the city, killing tons of people, and they're wrecking all these skyscrapers. Superman would never do that. He would fight in the ocean. He would fight in a field somewhere, right? So what they do in BVS, they overcorrected. You have the news people saying, Batman and Superman are fighting at this abandoned island where nobody lives. And then Suicide Squad was already basically done by the time the Batman vs Superman negative reaction came out. So what they do, they shot the shit David Ayer's movie and made it much more funny as much as they could, but it was still this ridiculous story fighting Enchantress, these street level thugs fighting this godly villain. It just, again, it didn't really work. And then we have Wonder Woman, which has finally stepped in the right direction, a movie that's not big, it has all these moving parts. Gal Gadot's great, and Chris Pine's great in supporting role. It's awesome, and you totally forgive a CGI villain and a CGI heavy third act, because the rest of the movie was so strong. Justice League, again, the train had already left the station by the time Wonder Woman was so good. So I look at this movie and I give it a bit of a pass because it clearly is a product of a pre-Wonder Woman DC. So
Right.
when I look at it in that angle and you see the fan reaction and they say, we're kind of happy where it left off with the characters, I can understand that. But the fact remains that it's not a good movie if you look at it, just on its own.
Right. Yeah. So after I got out of
the
the movie,
monologue for 10 minutes, sorry.
No, that's okay. I wanted to let you ISO for a bit. First of all, shout out Chris Pine. I think he should have been named the sexiest man alive. Blake Shelton. I mean, what are we doing? Anyways, jumping back into Justice League, I agree with most of what you said. I don't like if I had to grade this movie, I'd probably give it like a C plus. I think just like taking it as like a superhero movie, there were moments I really enjoyed. Ezra Miller was just he was like a lightning bolt on the screen, which is funny because he was basically the Flash. He was the Flash. Yeah, and he was fantastic, and it really almost was like after Wonder Woman, that conversation between Bruce Wayne and Wonder Woman basically being like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, and talking about how Wonder Woman needs to be the leader was literally like a very meta conversation. Like Wonder Woman needs to become like the lead of DC universe in order for their movies to be successful. And I really think it did a good job of shaping what things can look like moving forward. Like the Flash movie, I'm very excited to see now, which if this hadn't gone well and Ezra Miller wasn't good in this, I probably would have skipped that one. Cyborg, I thought was a character that, I don't know. I have some thoughts about Cyborg. Brooding teenager. I think trying to have him like figure out his emotional side to his situation in a movie like this didn't really feel in place.
I believe he had some scenes that were already cut and not to keep going. I mean, this was originally going to be 2 movies, so a lot of stuff was condensed or totally cut from this movie. But yeah, I think Cyborg is people will take him or leave him after this.
I think that makes sense. That it was supposed to be 2 movies. Yeah, Steppenwolf as a villain is just shit. Like, The Ringer recently did a rewatchables podcast on The Dark Knight, and just listening to them
podcast,
and them talking about Heath Ledger as the Joker, just even enhanced my experience of Steppenwolf as a shitty villain. Just like nothing to him, very CGI'd. I don't know.
And that's my thing when I listen to or I listen to positive stuff. And again, if you like the movie, love the movie, that's awesome. I'm happy it's pleasing some people. That's a great start, for the future of this franchise, Wonder Woman independent. But if all you wanted your movie villain to do was be a plot MacGuffin to get the people together and motivate them, I just think that's a low expectation. And yes, we can look at Loki in Avengers. Is he doing anything that different plot-wise? No. But I think because the rest of the movie is better, written better, looks better. Thankfully, only had one director. Like, the rest of Avengers works so well that a basic villain plot like Loki's, who was introduced beforehand, but regardless, it just functions better. The problem with Justice League is all these issues kind of compound and they stand out because they're all next. Just nothing can pick up the slack, know. So Steppenwolf being so CGI heavy and so one-dimensional that he almost makes me like Apocalypse from X-Men Apocalypse. Like,
shout out Oscar Isaac, by the way.
Yeah, oh my God. Kieran Hines, Mance Rayder for Game of Thrones, is the voice of Steppenwolf, but I mean, both those guys totally thankless roles. Get your check.
Yeah. Seriously. Well, that's a lot of people in this movie, and also just like the emotional moments they were supposed to hit, like everything after Superman is revived. First of all, I have a major issue with that scene where he comes back to life. The one thing you need to make sure is safe, other than I guess the rest of mankind, is the mother box, and no one remembers the mother box. Yeah. Like literally, when I described it to people, I like my girlfriend asked like about the movie, and I was like, he literally just walks in and takes that box and is out, and there's like no fight to stop it. It's like, what? Like, just someone guard the mother box, have the Flash like standing near it.
I mean, one thing that kind of annoyed me is there was no doubt as an audience viewer that they were going to resurrect Superman.
Right.
Henry Cavill was like We knew he was in the movie. He was
Yeah.
basically doing press for the movie. So why do we spend so much screen time with them deliberating? Should we do this? No, no. I mean, I like the grave digging scene of Flash and Cyborg. That was really funny. But
Yeah.
everything else was, it just, you take it or you leave it. And I mean, let's think of Aquaman. I mean, there are some stuff I loved about Aquaman. I think I like Jason Momoa's take on the character. It's a character that very few people have any connection with. So by all means, do what you want with it. Questionable that he slams a whiskey bottle by the ocean. I thought that was very irresponsible of a man of the sea, but I like his quips, and I thought he was pretty cool. But what do you think of the Atlantis scene where he goes to Atlantis for the first time, which again news to us as the viewer,
Right.
many takes on the character. But what do you think of that scene? Because I thought visually it was a little off when he was talking to Amber Heard and Mira.
Honestly, what I thought the whole time was shooting scenes underwater is like the most difficult thing to make look good or cool ever. And that's why Aquaman as a character is so hard, because everything has to be connected to the water in some way. I mean, I don't know. I also thought like it was very rushed. Like you said, like all of a sudden we're in Atlantis. Steppenwolf is just like running shit. No one can do anything, and then they go into this bubble and they're having a conversation. It's like it didn't really it didn't feel like it made sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, I mean, I'm not here to nitpick the plot. That's not
Right.
important. But you also watch and you think like, was that a reshot scene? Was that from which script is that from? You just don't know what skeleton the movie part of the movie is from. And if you look ahead to get macro again for a second, Aquaman is the next DCEU movie coming out, the only one for next year, and it comes out about a year from now, December 2018, because there's no Star Wars movie next December. And James Wan directing it did acknowledge the challenges of filming an underwater look, but obviously they've done more set work and higher production has been put into that. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but clearly not investing much in underwater scene leaves a little bit more to be desired, as we saw in Justice League. So I just hope that the Aquaman movie, I hope the underwater look isn't immediately polarized, and I hope it's not an immediate point of contention that people will use to shut down the movie, because that movie needs to be good. We need something that's not Wonder Woman to be liked. Right. And Ezra Miller showed us great promise as the Flash. That movie has had a lot of troubles with losing directors. So what are you more excited in, the idea of Aquaman movie or idea of a Flash movie?
Flash, I think, is a much cooler superhero in general, and I think just Ezra Miller, how much he stood out to me, makes me very excited for that.
I mean, watching his super speed scenes, I think they were enjoyable. We've kind of been exposed to that with Quicksilver in X-Men, Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, but there's still mileage in that, and he's funny. And while I thought Ezra Miller's jokes were probably like 50-50, some of them I thought just weren't good jokes. He's an enthusiastic Barry Allen, and he's more neurotic than the Barry Allen we get on The Flash from Grant Gustin on the CW. So it's a different portrayal, but it's a likable one. So, and he's also one of the younger leads. He's only 25, so should be a building block for them.
You know what I actually thought was a really cool scene was when they were talking about basically giving Steppenwolf's like origin story. And they're talking about how they beat him last time and how they had help from all these different ways. And they actually showed like the Green Lantern.
Yes,
that got me kind of hype. I was like, we need a Green Lantern movie, even if it's like a Wonder Woman where they put it back in time. Like, give me a Green Lantern.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Like on one hand, as a movie critic, that scene was just annoying exposition. You're wasting Gal Gadot having her just woman explain to Ben Affleck, right? But and as a fan, you see that, and you see like Zeus and Artemis and even Ares, who I didn't see all of them the first time. I had to look up the Easter eggs, but they're all there, as well as a Green Lantern who gets killed, and you see his ring go. And is that Hal Jordan's ring, the Green Lantern we're going to get eventually, perhaps? I mean, I thought that was really cool to see as a fan. You got Robin Wright's Antiope there in the cameo. David Thewlis back for Ares. So I mean, it's just the comic book feel. I think is cool if the movie, and it works better if the movie is more consistent. The very first scene of the movie when Batman is on that rooftop fighting that random burglar, and it's like you're transported to Gotham, and it looks very comic booky. I thought visually it looked really cool, but we don't get much more of that, you know.
The burglar that he stops in that is the sidekick in Mindhunter, by the way.
Yeah, no, he's was it McCowney, right? He's a
Yeah,
great character actor.
I know he's that dude. I was like, yes, that
He's
dude.
guy. Yes, and he lets him go because then the parademon shows up and no one gives a fuck
Right.
about the parademons.
Exactly. Just thinking in the future, let's say like a Justice League 2 in a sense, assuming all the characters were to come back, because I know that there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen with Affleck, if he continues as Batman or not.
They'll have a Batman regardless of who's playing it. Yeah.
If it was the same cast, including Batman, would you want Zack Snyder or Joss Whedon to direct that movie?
I gotta say Joss, just because Wonder Woman, lighter movie, right?
Right.
The best one so far. The other movies all try and do too much, or we're reek shot and we're so reactionary that, you know, the tones change, or Suicide Squad and Justice League and Man of Steel are obviously leaving behind. We basically have a brand new Superman character. So I would say Whedon. I don't think it would be Whedon, but they just need to. Jeff Johns, who's basically the Kevin Feige of DC, they need to just figure out what they are, you know? And I think the last 15 minutes, a lot of fans are very hopeful of that, you know? So I want to say Joss Whedon, he wouldn't make it Marvel-y, but Marvel movies do know what they are. They have a brand, if you will, and DC just needs to get on board with whatever they're going to do. And if it's the last 15 minutes of Justice League, all right, let's go with that and get whoever you can to do that the best. But I don't think it's Zack Snyder.
No, I don't think so either. And actually, I think the tone of Firefly is actually the perfect tone for Justice League to kind of take. It was a serious like sci-fi adventure, but it had Stanley Tudyk basically like getting to do whatever he wanted comedically.
Alan Tudyk or Stanley Tucci, dog?
God damn it! I was like running the name in my mind. I was like, I don't think this is right, but I'm just gonna throw it up there.
Right, and to that point, Thor Ragnarok, a movie we both really liked. Thor Ragnarok knows how fucking dumb it is, you know?
Right.
If you want to make serious superhero movies, you can. Christopher Nolan did it very well. You just need great directors and great scripts. And the problem is Zack Snyder has not been able to do that. These movies are dumb. They were dumb and serious. It's bad. You can't do that. So maybe Marvel takes the easy way out by making it fun the whole time, but they're delivering a good product. So again, I want DC to own what they are, and I think they have a plan. I mean, the post-credit scene, you have Lex Luthor escaped, got a cool Deathstroke by Joe Manganiello, which is really cool to see. But they tease like a Legion of Doom kind of thing. What if they like have the Flash villain, whoever it is, Reverse Flash, Zoom, whoever, come back in Justice League 2 as part of that Legion?
Be awesome.
Cheetah, the Wonder Woman 2 villain, assumingly, come back for the Legion of Doom. Have one of the million Batman rogues come back for Legion of Doom. That's a cool idea. Let's get a plan going. I'm not saying you need to tease Thanos for fucking 10 years.
Right.
But you just got to do more to show the fans that you have an idea. And I think, I don't want to say they can't do that yet because DC's so far behind the 8 ball. We only have one movie coming out next year, and it's still a solo movie. Like, they're just it's going very slow. So, you know, in a sense, like, again, I give them a pass for how not great this one is.
I know, it's funny too, because just thinking about how, I mean, I would consider this movie a win for the most part for DC. There's definitely parts that leave a lot to be desired, but overall, like, having good character moments and having superheroes people can get behind and excited for is awesome.
Exactly.
Like, that's good for the brand.
And I think no matter what happened, this movie was going to disappoint. I mean, this is the lowest opening weekend of any of the other DCEUs. I mean, Batman vs Superman came out came out a year and a half ago, and it made over $70 million more dollars in the opening weekend. That's absurd.
Crazy.
Justice League, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman did way worse than Thor, Hulk, and Valkyrie and Loki. Like, it just, the negative buzz was there. And whether this movie was 100% Snyder, 100% Whedon, unless you suddenly got, you know, a great scriptwriter to totally rework the movie and totally win people over with that first trailer, this is going to happen. So like you said, it's a win because a lot of fans are hopeful. And that's really all you can take away.
It's funny though, because I think the best movie I saw this weekend was the trailer for Black Panther. Because dude, every time I watch that trailer, I would like want to run through a brick wall. I want to see Michael B. Jordan just like doing his thing. Like, I am so in on that movie.
Yeah, and what is Black Panther macro level? It's a movie directed by Ryan Coogler, one of the exciting young filmmakers, totally owning it. All black cast, set in Africa, and Matt Reeves, a great filmmaker, did all the recent Planet of the Apes movies, which I love. He's doing the Batman, whether it's with Ben Affleck or not. That's a great talent, you know.
Yeah.
Let's keep this going. Get somebody good on the Flash. Let's get it moving. I mean, they talk about a Deathstroke solo movie and Batgirl with Joss Whedon writing it, and a Nightwing movie, and whether it's Gotham City Sirens or Joker and Harley's going to be in stuff because Harley's one of their big characters.
Yep.
We have all this talk, but you know, we gotta, let's get some dates down. You know, let's get these movies made. So, like the Cyborg solo movie, I don't have any faith that it's going to exist. Let's pump our brakes on that. Maybe you treat
Cyborg solo movie should be what the Hulk solo movie is.
I was just going to say that. You put Barry Allen and Cyborg together. You do that. You definitely don't all need their solos. And Green Lantern Corps is on the docket. Shazam has been cast with Zachary Levi, and The Rock will eventually be Black Adam. So, like, we know all this stuff, but we got to get more results. And again, it takes time because we have a whole other year to wait before Aquaman. So, you're gonna hear a lot of takes and a lot of people saying stuff, but at this point, he's got to wait.
Any last thoughts on Justice League before we wrap up? Should people who are casual fans see it?
I mean, I'd say so. I mean, if you've been watching all of them, I don't think. I mean, if you really want to stop, I mean, fine, I guess. Go ahead. I mean, there's very few movies that feel like they matter in in cultures, and a big part of that is like the 5 to 8 superhero movies every year to come out. Those movies people talk about, people care about, they make money, and I mean, I feel like if you're going to see anything, you should see the superhero movies and you should see the Oscar movies we tell you are really good.
Lady Bird. I'm going to see it this week.
Lady Bird might be my movie of the year. But yeah, I mean, if you really want to skip it, I mean, go ahead. I mean, it's fun to watch, you know? I mean, you're not there with your glasses and your fucking notepad. I mean, your expectations aren't that high. Come on.
Go take it for what it is pretty much the takeaway. Yep. All right, so we're
Batman is still cool at the end of the day, and so is Wonder Woman. Like, whatever. Right. I don't have to sell you on that. If you don't want to see it, don't see it.
We're gonna wrap up there. What do we got on the docket for next week?
Yeah, so I mean,
talk about the Deuce.
If you want to talk about the Deuce, yeah, I finished the Deuce when it came out because I love that show.
I'll be done by next week for sure.
Let's see. So I'm looking at the calendar. So again, we don't have really any music per se.
See a Christmas album, bro.
Yeah, Talib Kweli, T-Pain dropped, but no Eminem, which is fine. I mean, Black Bear comes out, Miguel 12-1, G-Eazy 12-15, Tuvlo just dropped. I mean, again, we're starting to slow down after Taylor Swift. And then movies, I mean, we got to think about how we want to do this because a lot of the Oscar movies are going very slowly in limited release. Lady Bird just finally going wide this weekend.
Right.
3 Billboards, Darkest Hour, Call Me By Your Name, Disaster Artist, Shape of Water. There's a lot of good movies to see.
Right.
But not everyone's going to see them for a while. So I don't know if we want to just save a lot of that till we do our year-end lists in December. You know,
let's talk Lady Bird next week.
Lady Bird, okay.
I'm gonna see it, so we might as well talk about it.
Yeah, if you see one movie over the extended holiday, please see Lady Bird.
Yeah,
it's got 100% Rotten Tomatoes with like 100+ reviews. And again, Rotten Tomatoes isn't everything, but when every critic likes it and none of them dislike it, I think that says something.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And
Phenomenal movie.
Yeah, and if you want us to talk about anything, tweet at NowstalgiaPod on Twitter, or at Martin Swagger, or at Sheeny World Peace. Drop the O. We want to hear from you. Give us feedback. Leave a rating and review on iTunes. And go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to access all of our content. We appreciate all of your support and any feedback you give us.
Yeah. If you
Dave.
watch a movie mad late, you can go to our YouTube breakouts and catch the review after the fact. It's waiting for you, waiting to be watched. Then you can leave us a comment letting us know what you thought. And all our music reviews are there too. So please let us know what you think.
Well, for Dave Martinson and myself, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week.
I believe in truth and justice, and however that dumb quote went.